39 people today and commuted the sentences of 1,500 Americans. 39 pardons. That means he forgave them for what they did so that they can get on with their lives. Commutations means that he reduced the sentences of 1,500 people, some on home confinement, some people incarcerated, where the president himself, through his office, determined that the scales of justice in these particular cases were unbalanced. That is, the crimes themselves did not meet or fit the punishment. And so the president, under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, has the right to commute an individual's sentence as his prerogative. It is actually a divine prerogative that he has as the leader of our nation to reduce their time, to send them home, and to reunite them with their families. In some cases, it means they can take off their ankle bracelets, their monitoring devices. In some cases, they're no longer on parole. In some cases, it means they're no longer at the halfway house. When the president of the United States intervenes in this process, it is a life-changing consequence. There are 77 million men and women who paid their debt to society, both at the federal level and at the state level, who need the president of the United States intervention in their lives to restore their lives. And of these 77 million, all of these Americans paid their debt to society. They went to jail and no pardon was available when they got out. They're driving buses. They're working the third shift. They're security guards. They are barbers and beauticians, men and women who learned how to cut hair in prison, who learned how to be beauticians in prison. Many of them will not share with us how they became a barber or how they became a beautician, but they've been in the process. They're everyday citizens around us, some around our tables at Thanksgiving and during Christmas season, who've paid their debt to society. And during this season of forgiveness, during this season of the recognition of the birth of forgiveness, of mercy, of love, of redemption, and grace, on a scale that the world has ever known, the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, we celebrated, commemorated on December 25th. The birth of freedom, the birth of hope. And for the last 2,000 years, the idea of forgiveness, love, and mercy against the backdrop of the entirety of human history is relatively new. It's hard to imagine the world before Jesus. If Jesus brought about forgiveness and brought about love and brought about mercy and brought about grace and brought about hope, then what did the world look like before Jesus? One could argue that ancient Egyptian history, ancient Greek history, ancient Roman history, even the medieval period were periods of enormous chaos until the ministry of Jesus had such a profound impact on everything after his life. His life is responsible for the expansion of ideas and thinking. His ministry, to love your neighbor as yourself, or more contemporarily, to love other sons just like you love your own son. That's what we're discussing today. My two guests are very, very extraordinary people who have lived experiences that are not unlike my own. But before that, let me read the press release that the President of the United States issued upon this historic day, when the first President of the United States issued mass commutations and 39 pardons. Let's make the distinction. We need mass pardons That's what I've been advocating for. Mass commutations are important. We need to get our brothers and sisters out of that system. But by commuting their sentences, they're still felons. Until they receive a pardon, they're still felons. And felonization is where Black people find themselves. Felonization is where poor brown and red and yellow and working class white folks in Appalachia find themselves. In his press release, statement from the President Joe Biden on providing clemency for nearly 1,500 individuals on home confinement and pardons for 39 individuals convicted of nonviolent crimes. December 12, 2024. America was built on the promise of possibility and second chances. As president, I have the great privilege of extending mercy to people who have demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation, restoring opportunity for Americans to participate in daily life and contribute to their communities, and taking steps to remove sentencing disparities for nonviolent offenders, especially those convicted of drug offenses. That is why today I am pardoning 39 people who have shown successful rehabilitation and have shown commitment to making their community stronger and safer. I'm also commuting the sentences of nearly 1,500 people who are serving long prison sentences, many of whom would receive lower sentences if charged under today's laws, policies, and practices. These commutation recipients who were placed on home confinement during the COVID pandemic have successfully reintegrated into their families and communities and have shown that they deserve a second chance. I will take more steps in the weeks ahead. My administration will continue reviewing clemency petitions to advance equal justice under the law, promote public safety, support rehabilitation and reentry, and provide meaningful second chances. No other president of the United States has ever written anything like that on the question of both pardons and commutations. Please understand the distinctions. 1,500 people whose sentences have been commuted are not 1,500 people who have been pardoned. He pardoned 39 people in this same process. Most of our people who've been in the system are out of the system. They don't need their sentences commuted. I don't need my sentence commuted. I served my time. My guests today do not need their sentences commuted. They served their time. And they are productive members of our society. They pay taxes. But every time someone introduces them, they bring up the felony conviction. It serves as a chain around their neck, handcuffs on their hands, shackles on their ankles, and in the mental space of never being able to reach absolution. Our first guest is Warren Ballentine. Warren is an American motivational speaker, attorney, political activist, and radio talk show host. We all know Warren Ballentine. Ballentine was born and raised on Chicago's South Side, where he attended and graduated from Lindblom High School in 1992. He's an alumnus of Chicago State University and graduated from law school at Ohio Northern University Petite College of Law in Ada, Ohio. Ballentine joined his fraternity. Upon completion of law school, Ballentine worked as a prosecutor and as a guardian ad litem before going into private practice. He's tried a multitude of cases, including murder, discrimination, sexual assault, police brutality, drunk driving, drugs, gang violence, and domestic relations. He had been admitted to multiple state bars. In 2015, Ballentine was suspended in North Carolina due to a felony conviction. He was disbarred in 2016. On August 26, 2015, the Illinois Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Committee, the agency that licenses Illinois lawyers, filed a complaint against Ballentine based on his federal conviction. In his radio career, we know him as Warren Ballentine from the Warren Ballentine Show. He was syndicated in 137 media markets through Radio 1 and was one of the highest rated urban talk shows in the nation. The show had been covered numerous times by the media since it hit the airwaves. Radio 1 canceled the show after Warren Ballentine was indicted. We need Warren Ballentine's voice back on the airwaves. We have to wash him up, clean him up. And the only way to wash him up and clean him up is that he be available for the pardon of Joe Biden, one of the men and women who didn't have their sentences commuted, paid his debt entirely to society, and after having paid his debt, he has now, like myself, spent more time as a felon than we did incarcerated. I'm honored that Warren Ballentine is my friend. I'm honored for the service that he has provided for our community. I'm honored by his work as a prosecutor. Warren, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse, thank you so much, brother. And I'm honored to be your friend, man. I love what you're doing here, getting the conversation started, getting people to understand the differences. It is a much needed conversation because a lot of people think, oh, if a person was charged and they did their time, they get what they deserve. No, that's not the way the law works. And that's not how grace works. So I'm happy to be here.
Warren, let me begin by asking you to share a little bit about yourself and about your family. We'll come to the other stuff in the larger segment.
Well, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, went to school in Inglewood, come from a single parent home. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college, first person to get a master's or a law degree. I paid for my way to go through law school, paid for my way to go through college, working jobs. I'm a parent, and I just, through all the stuff that I've been through, the one thing that I hated more than anything else, to be honest with you, is my mother passed during the time that I was going through all of this. And to be honest with you, if I had not been going through all this, I would have had the financial means and the connections to be able to help her stay on this earth. And so that was the hardest thing for me going through this, because honestly, I can honestly say this on with everything that I know and believe. I understand how people in the legal system work. And a lot of times people hear things in the legal system through media, not understanding that sometimes prosecutors are prosecuting people, not because the person is guilty, but because the prosecutor wants to make a name for themselves. And literally, that's why I left being a prosecutor, because I realized working in the prosecutor's office that it was all about the convictions. It wasn't about the people. And so I was raised in a church, and I was raised to believe that you always help people, no matter what. You help the best way you can. And that's what I tried to do my whole entire life. Even to this day, I still try to help people.
Warren, I found this somewhat fascinating about my own situation, in that my prosecutor had a 98% conviction rate. And most federal prosecutors are 80, 90 or higher in terms of conviction rates. I mean, they talk about, when you step into the process, that it's going to be equal, you and the judge and the jury and a jury of your peers. But these prosecutors weed out the cases they cannot win. And they are driven by the numbers that help them establish themselves for their futures, regardless of the facts. And with the overwhelming resources of federal and state governments, there is absolutely no way that a defendant like myself can actually compete by hiring lawyers at $500 an hour. Share with us how overwhelming that is. We have a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Well, it is overwhelming. And honestly, we might not be able to do it in a minute and a half, but I will say this. Part of the reasons that the prosecutors move like that is because they have qualified immunity, meaning that even if they're charging somebody and they don't believe the person is guilty, that person can never come back and sue them for ruining that person's life. And because they have that qualified immunity, they literally can charge anybody with anything. That's why they tell you in law school, you can convict a ham sandwich.
I have found that I found your case to be absolutely fascinating, not because of the facts of your case, but because of your life after your case. And so I think it's particularly important that we understand, how much time did you serve?
I served a day. My case was so unusual in the fact that after I was found guilty at sentencing, the judge said, if you would have did a bench trial, I'd have found you not guilty. It was no evidence. This is what the judge said. The prosecutors was asking for $1.9 million. And the judge said, nope, I'm not finding him $1.9 million. I'm finding him bare minimum.
When we come forward, we're going to finish this conversation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. We're joined with the great Warren Ballentine.
Bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Somebody bring out the confetti, baby!
Starting Monday, January 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 has a new midday lineup.
I'm excited.
Are you ready for Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, and E. Quarterly Corte back-to-back?
Oh, my God.
Are you really ready for all this smoke?
I'm ready, brother.
Yes, we still have Dominique DePrima in the mornings and Zoe Williams in the evenings, but middays just got lit on KBLA Talk 1580.
We on fire.
All across America, people are talking about our new midday lineup. Starting Monday, January 6th, our KBLA 1580 app downloads are on fire because everybody's going to be tuning in.
Yes, I love you guys. You are the bomb.
Now would be a good time to hit up SMB at KBLA1580.com if you want folks to hear about your business or brand. That's SMB at KBLA1580.com. It's going up in 2025 on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's going up.
That's what I want.
Again, Scent Bead story. Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said, Maraca, senor, but his nose said, hey, freshest scent ever. Following
Sprays can leave grime behind, but Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on the Jesse Jackson Show, KBLA Talk 1580. We are joined by global radio icon Warren Ballentine. Warren, before the break, you were making a point.
Yeah, Jesse, again, thank you for having me. I was saying that I didn't serve a day in jail. The judge sentenced me to 1 day, and he said that was time served. And that was, he said, when I got processed, that was the 1 day. He also said at sentencing that, look, if I'd have did a bench trial, he would have found me not guilty, because he was like, it really was no evidence. He's like, but because the jury found you guilty, I'm going to let this stand. And the reason why it was like that is because what I was charged with was with mortgage fraud. But the way mortgages work in Illinois, if you do a closing, a title company does all the work. They escrow the money, they verify employment, they do all the work that an attorney would do. All the attorney does is come in and does document review. So I came in and did document review. I said, hey, did you sign this? Did you agree to this? Yes, 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 yes. Now, the people who were doing the closings, they had a scheme and they were making $75,000 a closing. I made $300. That's how much money I made. And literally, it's the same amount of money I would have made if I was doing your closing, $300. And it was other lawyers who had did the same things for these people. None of those lawyers were charged. I was the only one brought into this mess. They put me on TV. They put me in the media like I was the ringleader and everything else. Soon as that hit, everybody just ran away from me. Everybody dropped me. Everybody just scattered. Everybody just believed that, oh, he had to be a part of this. He had to have done this. And literally, Jesse, what was crazy about this, I did the closing in 2003. They came towards me in 2013 and charged me in 2013. 10 years later for a closing that I made $300 for. And so the judge was just like, what in the world? Now, it gets even better than this. This is the other crazy part. So my lawyer was Charles Ogletree, right? Tree had dementia, and I didn't know it. The court didn't know it. I found out about it literally 2 years after my case, when the Washington Post did a piece on him saying that he had been in dementia, in earlier dementia, for the last 3 years. So while he was representing me, he was medically unsound. I filed with the court, hey, this guy had Alzheimer's in effect. And what was told to me, it doesn't matter. It's done, it's over with. Now, that didn't surprise me, because the way the court system is, Jesse, is like this for people who don't know. It is like a manufacturing machine in this sense. The case comes in. Once it goes in front of the judge and that case is out of there, they don't want to bring it back in for nothing in the world. They want it to be done, over with, on to the next case, because it's so much money in these cases. See, people don't realize how much money it is in locking people up and keeping them as felons to get them back in the system if they get pulled over and then the cop says, oh, they're resisting arrest. It's all these little things and factors that people don't think about when you're talking about people's lives. And this is the other thing when you're dealing on the federal side. They don't just come after you in court. They set the IRS on you. Prior to my court case, I had never got audited by the IRS. Never. Every year since that court case, I get audited. Every year. Every year. And it's because you're flagged.
Let me just make this point right here, if I might. So you did a day.
A day.
And that was a day.
And I didn't even do a day. I just got processed. I got processed and went home the same day.
When did you do? wait a minute. Say that again.
I got processed and went home the same day, because the judge was like, he's not going to jail. Because it was the judge was like, what the hell? The judge even was like this at sentencing. He was like, what in the world?
Forgive me for laughing, Warren. Forgive me for laughing. Let me bring it back to my point. So you got processed and went home.
And went home. The judge was like, he's not going to jail.
So the whole case was about making you a felon.
But the whole case was about, look, let me tell you how crazy it is, Jesse. So at the sentencing, I told you, he said, if I'd have did a bench trial, I've been not guilty. They tried to fine me $1.9 million. The judge said, nope, only $120,000 was my fine. He put me on probation. A week
sit back a little bit.
After I got home, when I got home a week later, I get something in the mail saying I was off probation. This was, right? Took me off probation a week later, right? So then this is the other part that was crazy.
Warren, you're breaking up a little bit. I just need you to sit back. You're breaking up a little bit. Sit back from your microphone just a little bit. Warren? Well, I think my guest is frozen right now, but I want to, for whatever reason, Warren's system is frozen. But I want to make this point until we're able to work out the technical difficulty. Warren did less than a day. Less than a day. And then he's been a felon for almost a decade as a result of that. He did less than a day, just processing time. The entire process was about making him a felon. That's a problem. It's called felonization, where the rest of his life, for a day in court of processing, has forever condemned his life to a life sentence. And that's where we need Joe Biden to focus the pardon power, not preemptively for people who don't know what they're doing and didn't get charged with a crime. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, Warren Ballentine.
You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President Biden is granting clemency to 1,500 Americans and pardoning 39 individuals. Black White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a briefing that those who had their sentences commuted have showed remorse, growth, and a strong commitment to making their community safer. A Black teacher, Bella Ivory, is suing Beverly Hills High School for alleged racism, citing ignored reports of discrimination, harassment, and threats since 2022. She is on leave, fearing for her safety. The New Year's Eve Peach Drop is coming back to downtown Atlanta. Black Mayor Andre Dickens says the event is being brought back to the heart of downtown during a truly historic and transformative renaissance. And the Hearts Act, backed by Black Buffalo Bill safety Damar Hamlin, is headed to President Biden to become law. It funds CPR training, AEDs, and emergency plans for schools. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Have a couple of connector road problems. First in West LA, 405 northbound transition to the 10 westbound. A van ran out of gas, and you'll find that van blocking lanes of the connector road. You'll also find a slow ride on the North 405 from La Tierra up to Nordhoff. 5 southbound connector road to the 710 southbound. A pickup truck died down. This truck is blocking the left lane of the transition road. And the South 5, you're slow from the East LA interchange to the 605.
Staples has amazing deals on everything you need for the holidays, from custom holiday cards and photo gifts to laptops and gaming systems, even shipping solutions. And now save up to $350 on select computers. In-store only. Offer ends 12/28. Unwrap huge holiday savings at Staples.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron will miss his second straight game with a sore left foot. He will not travel with the Lakers today for Friday's game at Minnesota. A decision was made to allow LeBron, who turns 40 on December 30th, to continue getting treatment and take a break. No word yet on whether LeBron will be available for Sunday's home game against Memphis. If you have plans to be in Vegas this weekend, you'll have a chance to see the semifinals of the NBA Cup tournament. The first game Saturday is Milwaukee versus Atlanta, followed by Oklahoma City and Houston. The championship game is Tuesday night. The University of North Carolina introduced Bill Belichick today as their new head football coach. The 72-year-old Belichick becomes the oldest head coach in college football. Belichick won 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots and is regarded as the most successful coach in NFL history. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
On behalf of her precious family, it is with profound sadness that KBLA Talk 1580 announces the passing of our beloved colleague, Robin Ayers, on Thursday, December 5th. Robin was a bright light. You could see her radiant smile through the radio. We all respected her immense talent, loved her jovial spirit, celebrated her love of family, and honored her faith in God. Our thoughts and prayers are with Robin's entire family, most especially her husband Rob and her twin daughters Brooklyn and Madison. We ask you to join us in praying for the Ayers family as they navigate the difficult days ahead. In her honor, all this week, we're broadcasting the best of the Rob Report on KBLA Talk 1580. Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts, reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at cavshate.org.
This season, Chevy brings classic pairings, cookies and milk, mistletoe and kisses, and your holiday plans and a new Chevy. Silverado 1500 gives you power and capability with 430 pound-feet of torque to haul your holiday tree. Equinox EV and the all-new Equinox offer award-winning quality and style to see you through the holiday season. See why Chevy makes everything better and brighter. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, KBLA Talk 1580. My special guest is Warren Ballentine. Warren is a radio talk show host extraordinaire. He was once in 137 media markets. He didn't even spend a day in jail. He was only processed and then sent home. That was 13 years ago. The judge said the case was outrageous. And had he had the opportunity, he would have never convicted Warren of the crime in the first place. So he sends him home. But for the last 13 years, Warren Ballentine lost it all. His radio show, his endorsements, his sponsors, his reputation, and he ended up with a big felon on his forehead. Warren is seeking an absolute, full, complete, and unconditional pardon from President Joe Biden. I hope he gets it. I'm fighting for it with him. But most importantly, for the purposes of our show, Warren is in the category of felonization. A new form of Jim Crow, a new form of, if you will, discrimination and slavery for our people. I want to make one note that's breaking here in the state of Illinois. Of the 1,500 people that were commuted, today President Joe Biden commuted former Dixon comptroller convicted of stealing $54 million. She had her sentence commuted today. She was not pardoned. She was given 19 years in prison. And the White House determined that for stealing $54 million, 19 years was too long, too much time. Warren spent one day in a process and for 13 years has been trying to recover his life. Mr. Ballentine, that's an injustice. Please continue your story. Okay. I see that Warren's computer is again frozen. Warren, are you there? So let me go back to this Dixon comptroller story while we work on the technical problem on Warren Ballentine's end. So ABC News is reporting that Cromwell was released in 2021 and placed on home confinement amid COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. One of the reasons that presidents of the United States, given the backlog and given how much time is left in his presidency, the question of when to pardon, when to commute, when to grant clemency always falls at the end of the president's season. We spent the last 6 months discussing one person, Hunter Biden. And then we spent the last year and a half discussing what will Donald Trump do with the January 6th men and women who entered the Capitol, and I believe 900 of them have been sentenced for their crime. Donald Trump promises not the commutation of sentences on day one. He does not promise reducing their time on day one. For those who've not been convicted or even sentenced yet, he promises absolute pardon, meaning that what they did never occurred in the first place. That is the power of the presidential pardon. That pardon is available for January 6th rioters. But in the Biden administration, we're pleading with him to understand that Warren Ballentine is more the norm in our system than the exception. He's the norm in the system, not the exception. But he doesn't have very expensive lawyers in Washington, D.C. Neither do I. Black men and women who paid their debt to society don't have these opportunities either. They find themselves struggling and locked out of the life, liberty, and happiness system. We're here with Warren Ballentine today because we want to bring light to his situation. We want to bring light to men and women who did what the judge said do, did what the jury said do, paid their debt to society, and today they did not make President Joe Biden's list. Now, the White House promises that there will be more lists coming forward. There will be more opportunities coming forward for pardon and forgiveness. And he's working very closely with the Pardon Office to make that happen. Warren, please share with us more of your story.
Well, Jesse, it's been 13 years, and I've been for a part in this time with the hopes that President Biden will have some grace on me, and along with so many other people, like you said, it's not just about you and I, it's about all of us who have literally been in the system, been held accountable, and we're just looking for a second chance in life. That's what makes America so great. The fact that we are supposed to be able to have a second chance. And so the hope is that President Biden will walk out of this office and secure his legacy even greater than what it already is. I mean, he vice president for the first Black president, female vice president of color. He appoints the first Black female Supreme Court justice. He makes Juneteenth. And so this power of pardon and this grace of pardoning people would really even secure him even more in the decades and in the centuries to come, as far as being a president who was truly about trying to help all people and trying to do things in a more civilized, in a more caring way when dealing with everyday American people.
You know, I share with people all the time that in the Bible, particularly the New Testament, we see these maybe a dozen stories that we constantly call the basis of our faith, of Jesus forgiving maybe 12 people 12 people with some Jesse Jackson Jr. facts, some Warren Ballentine facts, some comptroller in downstate Illinois facts, some Harold Washington tax facts. I mean, everybody's got something they've done wrong. I read a book called 3 Felonies a Day, that the average person commits 3 felonies a day. If the federal government ever turns their attention to you, they're going to find something you did wrong. Joe Biden, to your point, has the power to forgive en masse with pardon, not commutation, with pardon. More people than Jesus of Nazareth forgave around the Sea of Galilee in his 3-year ministry. The size and scale of the problem, Warren, ought to be troubling for everyone in our nation. So my thoughts, Warren, will continue.
Well, you think about this. Prior to today,
Warren, I'm still having a technical difficulty. So to sum up this portion of our segment, while we continue to work through the technical difficulty, Warren, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm sorry. For whatever reason, we're still having some
technical
technical
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I've got a break now. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we'll be with Warren Ballentine.
To speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
An official message from Medicare. Couple more minutes and we'll start this month's book club.
You know, I usually love a plot twist, but this year I'm comparing my options during Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you got to make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money. Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580 on the Jesse Jackson Show. I want to thank our special guest, Warren Ballentine, and I need to work out an action plan with you, Brother Ballentine. 202-456-1111 is the telephone number to the White House. 202-456-1111
I think we need to have
is the number to the White House. What do you want callers to call in and say on your behalf?
I would like for them to say, please consider asking the president to pardon Warren Ballentine, but not just Warren Ballentine, a host of other people. I mean, in 4 years prior to Hunter Biden getting his pardon and prior to what happened today with the 39 pardons, President Biden had only pardoned 25 people in a 4-year period. That was historically low. And so we need this grace and this gift and this power of the pardon to really help the people. And it's sad because it's so many people who have been held accountable, who've done what they were supposed to do, and they just want to go back to their lives. They want to be able to earn enough money to send their kids to college, to be able to retire, to be able to make a difference for the next generation so they don't get caught up in this system. You know, I tell people all the time, they always ask me, well, what's the one thing you wish you had the most right now? And I always tell them the same thing. I just wish I had a radio show that was playing across the country again so that I could inform and educate and try to uplift people, not to speak badly about the legal system or the political system, but to make people understand how it works so that we can stop other people from getting into the system unjustifiably, because it happens all the time. And so it's just trying to make people understand that we are all in this together. We may have come here on different ships, but right now we're all in the same boat. And it's not a question of, will this affect you personally? It's a question of, when will it affect you personally? Because I promise you, the way...
That number again is 202-456-1111. 202-456-1111. I'm sorry, Mr. Ballentine, please continue.
Yeah, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I mean, think about the number that you laid out from the very beginning. 77 million people on the federal and the state side who have went in, came out, and never committed another crime. But think about them just having a husband or a wife and one child. That's 2 other people that were dramatically affected in their lives because of what their loved one went through. So you're talking about what, 154 million people right there that have had some kind of, adjacent contact with the legal system, even if they were not in it themselves because of their loved ones. So we need people to understand that this is bigger than just trying to get somebody a pardon. It's about teaching people that we should have the right to ask the president, whoever they may be, he or she, that you should have that grace and use that power in a way to help the people, because that's why the power was put into the Constitution. It wasn't put there to be not used. It was put there to be used so that people could truly have a second chance in this country, in this nation. And that's what this nation is supposed to be all about, second chances.
From day one in your presidency to the end of your presidency, you ought to be in the forgiveness business. Warren Ballentine is asking our listeners for forgiveness. He's asking you to assist him in that process by calling the White House on his behalf. 202-456-1111. 202-456-1111. One of the things that has amazed me as I've kind of wrestled with this process, and something that I thank you very much, my engineer, for placing the number to help Warren Ballentine right in the banner. I'm really, really grateful for that. The church tends, Warren, to focus on the business of forgiveness on Sunday, right?
Right.
But the full presidential pardon is about forgiveness Monday through Saturday.
Right.
So that you can get a job, so that you can go to work, so that you can hold your head up, so that you can have dignity in community. Interestingly enough, the church focuses on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, that's about the presidential pardon when it comes to forgiveness. Do you agree with that? I think Warren's technology is frozen.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. I think that pardon is such a powerful tool of forgiveness, because it is a forgiving 7-day-a-week forgiveness kind of thing. But I also say this, for all the listeners who will call, who may not know me, but have heard this story today, I want to say thank you. If you don't call, I still say thank you for listening, because you didn't have to listen. So I appreciate the fact that you would even take the time to listen. I appreciate the fact that this radio station is playing shows like this. I appreciate the fact that Jesse is doing shows like this, because this is what we need. We need this throughout our communities all across the country, because this isn't a black or brown or yellow or red or white issue. It's an American issue. Everybody from every fabric and every corner of this country are being touched by this. And we need to be able to have a real conversation about this power of pardon and the power of forgiveness, so that people can have a chance to have a second chance in life. Just point blank, period. It's 13 years later, and I still, when I apply for jobs, I literally get 2 job offers, and then once they Google me, pull the jobs right back because of something that happened 13 years ago.
I mean, that's heart-wrenching for you. It's heart-wrenching for your family, but it's heart-wrenching for 77 million Americans who've paid their debt to society. And that's why both Warren and I are asking you to call the White House, 202-456-1111. My father has Parkinson's, and sometimes I visit him in his office, and he's sitting there with one finger either trying to dial 411, which he's done dozens of times, just 411, because he wants the 411 operator to connect him to the White House. And I'm like, Dad, you don't need to contact 411. This is the number, 202-456-1111. And all of the White House operators now know my dad, because my dad's been calling what? For me, he's calling for Warren Ballentine. He's calling for millions of people who paid their debt to society or got unjustly caught up in the system, but still have felon on their forehead, felon on their neck, felon on their back, to have that stain removed. And at the top of the program, Warren, I made the distinction between people who are pardoned, that is, they are forgiven and their records are cleaned and wiped away, the signature of the President of the United States on a letter to you saying it's over, is different than reducing a sentence and letting someone out. They're still going to join the ranks of felonization. 1,500 people today whose sentences were commuted now join the ranks of felonization. And I have been a felon far longer than the judge told me how much time I had to serve. She didn't say, Jesse Jackson Jr., I'm giving you 30 months incarcerated and another 5 years to fill out a pardon application before you can, and then wait around the rest of your life for someone to say, I'm going to grant you the grace of God and the American people. And it never comes. There's never an absolution to it, Warren. Well, how else can we help you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, calling that number is a great start. Talking about it on social media for everybody who's on social media, talking about it in your churches and your barbershops, because it's not just you and I, Jesse. Again, this is affecting so many different people. And I will say this in closing, because I know we're running out of time here, that it takes all of us, man. It really does. It takes a village. And if we don't realize that, if we don't understand that, if we don't have geese sense, where we take turns being out in front, and one goose is flying in the back, watching all the other geese to make sure if they're tired, they'll come under and keep them flying, and that they can fly 72 miles an hour together and only 12 miles an hour as an individual goose. We got to have some geese sense. If we have geese sense, we can get the president, whoever it may be, to use the power of the pardon to really help people and give them a second chance. That's what this country was founded on. That's what these fights in our country and our nation has been about from day one. We still are fighting, but we're fighting a different fight now. We're fighting a fight for forgiveness, for love, and for second chances.
Warren, we have about 3 minutes before the top of the hour. Tell us about the impact of this struggle on your children.
Oh man, my kids both qualified to get into Ivy League schools. Couldn't go because of their father. I look at them now. My daughter's about to graduate. She's trying to go to law school, and I'm just hoping, to be honest with you, that she gets in and doesn't get denied because of me. She has the score. She has the GPA. She's an honor student at her college at 4.0 GPA, weighted. And so I'm just hoping that she gets the opportunity. I mean, to the point where I even told them, hey, you may need to change your name to your mom's last name, your mom's maiden last name.
Wow.
Because I don't want them to have that name pulling them down when all they in reality, all I've done my whole life was be a servant leader, man. That's all I've done. And to be in this situation is mind blowing to me, as hard as I worked to get to where I was in life. So I'll tell you this though, growing up with a praying mother and growing up in the church and growing up in Chicago, where I grew up in Chicago, it either breaks you or it makes you unbreakable. And it just made me unbreakable. So even though I'm struggling and going through all of this, I still smile and I thank God that I get to see another day and I get to see these kids do their thing. And I get to still help people. Not in the way that I used to help people, because I paid for kids to go to college. I did things like that when I was in position. I'm not in that position anymore. But all I can hope is that, people will remember me and ask for a partner on my behalf, as well as anybody else that they love and care about.
That number is 202-456-1111, 202-456-1111. We are calling the White House switchboard operator to ask for the unconditional pardon of Warren Ballentine, that we'd like to see him on the president's list, along with millions of other people who fully paid their debt to society but find themselves trapped in felonization, and they can only be removed from felonization if the President of the United States autographs a piece of paper with the exact same language that he gave to his own son. We're asking him, the President of the United States, to see Warren Ballentine, to see your son, to see your daughters, to see your neighbors, to see the men and women that have been forgotten. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we'll be talking with Mayor Roger Ekpawa.